Flight Lieutenant Percival Stanley, Stan Turner, 242 Squadron Royal Air Force, was at 23,000 feet over Gravelines, France, on 9 August 1940, when the sun disappeared behind him. Not the sun, the shadows. 4 Messerschmitt Bf-109Es, 8/JG-51, closing from the southeast at an angle that should have ended the engagement before it began. Turner had perhaps 4 seconds before their deflection shots found him. He did not turn into them. He did not climb. He pushed the stick forward and pointed the nose of his Hurricane straight at the earth. The Luftwaffe had a name for the Hurricane. They called it the Infantry Begleitflugzeug, literally the infantry escort aircraft. Not a fighter, a piece of slow, obsolete, fabric-covered scaffolding that the serious war had already left behind. They did not mean it as a description. They meant it as a verdict. And in the summer of 1940, they believed it completely. By the time the Battle of Britain ended, the Hurricane had destroyed 1,593 confirmed enemy aircraft, more than the Spitfire, more than any other Allied platform in the theatre. Verify. Cross-reference Air Ministry, Air Historical Branch AHB/2/1, 16/30 and RAF Museum, Hendon Accession Number X 002-4301. The Germans were not wrong to be dismissive. They were, in almost every technical measurement they took, entirely correct. The Hurricane Mark I carried 8.303-inch Browning machine guns, firing at 1,200 rounds per minute per barrel. Its Merlin II engine produced 1,030 brake horsepower at takeoff. Maximum speed was 324 miles per hour at 17,500 feet, 520 kilometers per hour. Cruise at combat altitude was closer to 280 miles per hour. The aircraft had a service ceiling of 34,200 feet, but struggled meaningfully above 20,000. Its airframe was a hybrid construction, a traditional fabric and tube fuselage mated to stressed skin metal wings, a design lineage that reached back to the Hawker Fury biplane of 1931. The Bf-109E3, by contrast, was an all-metal monocoque structure producing 1,175 horsepower from its Daimler-Benz DB601A engine, with a top speed of 354 miles per hour at 14,800 feet. Its 20mm MGFF cannon fired shells at 585 meters per second, with an effective combat range nearly double that of the Hurricane's rifle-caliber guns. The German aircraft could sustain negative G flight through its fuel injection system. The Hurricane, running a float carburetor, would starve its engine of fuel the instant a pilot pushed the nose down hard. General Ernst Udet's technical branch at the Reichsluftfahrtministerium had assessed both aircraft in exhaustive detail by early 1940. Their conclusion, circulated in a brief dated March 1940, verify Bundesarchiv Militärarchiv RL3/60, held that the Hurricane was outclassed in speed by at least 30 miles per hour, outclassed in climb rate above 15,000 feet, outclassed in dive performance, and dangerously outclassed in firepower. Their test pilots had flown captured examples. The one that force-landed in France in November 1939 was particularly revealing, and found the aircraft honest, predictable, and thoroughly inadequate against modern opposition. Hauptmann Werner Mulders, who had fought Hurricanes briefly over France, noted in a letter that engaging one was straightforward as long as you maintained altitude advantage and never allowed it to turn inside you. Mulders was right about most of it. They were right about the speed. They were completely wrong about the turning radius. The Hurricane's wide-track undercarriage, a 17-foot, 10-inch wheelbase compared to the BF-109's notoriously narrow 5-foot gear, was considered a liability. Stable on grass strips, certainly. But what did that matter in the air? The answer was in the wings. The wing area of the Hurricane was 257.5 square feet. The BF-109E carried 171.1 square feet. That larger wing, paired with the aircraft's heavier, more predictable handling, produced a sustained turn radius that was, at medium altitude and combat speed, measurably tighter than anything the 109 could match without bleeding energy it could not afford to lose. RAF Fighter Command's Tactical Memorandum. Number 8, circulated to squadrons in June 1940. Verify TNAAIR 16/635. Made this explicit. The Hurricane should never try to run from a 109 and should never try to climb away from one. It should turn hard, get inside. The pilot who understood that had an aircraft under him, not a liability. Nobody at the Reichsluftfahrt Ministerium had measured turning circles in combat. They had measured speeds. Turner's dive on 9th August 1940 was not, in the strictest sense, a dive at all. It was a half roll into a split S with the throttle wide open, accepting the engine cut that came with it for approximately 2 seconds as the float carburettor starved, recovering at 15,000 feet with enough excess speed to pull the nose up through a hard climbing turn that no 109 pilot trying to follow him had the wing loading to sustain. The 4 German aircraft that had closed on him from the southeast were, within approximately 60 seconds, flying in 4 different directions. Turner selected one, close to 180 yards, an engagement range that Fighter Command instructors had marked as requiring exceptional nerve but offering exceptional accuracy, and fired 2 bursts totaling approximately 4 seconds of trigger time. The BF-109E4, flown by Lieutenant Ernst Flecken. Verify. Luftwaffe Personell Records. Bundesarchiv Militärarchiv Abteilung 3. 8JG51, went into an uncontrolled left spiral and did not recover. Turner got 3 more kills in the next 3 minutes. That detail was confirmed in his combat report, signed the same day, archived at TNAAIR 50/11, and in the 242 Squadron Operations Record Book, TNAAIR 27/1522. He was credited with 4 confirmed kills in that single engagement. Now consider what those 4 kills mean against the landscape of the Battle of Britain's first serious fortnight. On the 13th of August 1940, Adlertag, Eagle Day, the opening of the Luftwaffe's sustained assault on RAF airfields, Hurricanes of 111 Squadron were scrambled from RAF Croydon to intercept a formation of approximately 60 Heinkel He-111s of Kampfgeschwader 54, escorted by Bf-110's heavy fighters, targeting RAF Kenley. Pilot Officer R.C. Bumford. Verify 111 Squadron ORB TNAAIR 27/899. Flying Hurricane Mark 1 P3207, was reported by his section leader as having engaged the lead element of the HE-111 formation from directly ahead, a head-on attack that closed at a combined speed of over 500 miles per hour, fired at a range of 400 yards, and held the trigger through 250 yards, broke downward, and watched the lead Heinkel descend with its left engine burning. The engagement lasted approximately 11 seconds. In that 11 seconds, Bumford had fired roughly 1,400 rounds and changed the geometry of an attack being delivered against a runway that Fighter Command could not afford to lose. The Hurricane did not do that because it was a fast aircraft. It did that because an 11-second head-on pass at 250 yards required a platform stable enough to hold an aiming solution under conditions that would have induced a full-body tremor in a less forgiving aircraft. The Bf-109 was a precise instrument. The Hurricane was a reliable one. Those are not the same thing. The distinction mattered most at the level of maintenance and repair. The fabric-covered rear fuselage that the Luftwaffe's technical branch had noted with something close to amusement was, in practice, a catastrophic repair advantage. A ground crew could patch a .303 caliber strike through the fuselage fabric with doped Irish linen and cellulose acetate in under 40 minutes. A shrapnel strike through the metal skin of a 109 required sheet metal work, riveting, and in most cases, a ferry flight to a depot. At RAF Debden during the second week of August 1940, the 17 squadron ground crews, led by Sergeant Albert Burt Feather, verify 17 Squadron ORB TNAAIR 27/215, also personal memoir held IWM Department of Documents, reference 8723, turned around a Hurricane, serial V7203, that had taken a 20mm strike through the rear fuselage and a further .303 burst through the port wing fabric in 58 minutes, returning it to the flight line before the pilot who had landed it had finished his debrief. The pilot was Flight Lieutenant Robert Stanford Tuck. The aircraft flew again the same afternoon. That figure, 58 minutes, does not appear in any technical specification. It does not appear in any Luftwaffe assessment. It was not a selling point in any Air Ministry presentation. It was simply what happened when a tired sergeant and 5 airmen worked on a piece of aircraft that was designed, whether intentionally or not, to be maintained by human hands with basic tools in difficult conditions. The most complete picture of what the Hurricane actually was, as opposed to what the Luftwaffe assessed it to be, arrived not in any after-action summary, but in the testimony of a German pilot who had been shot down on August 18, 1940, the day later called Der Schwarze Donnerstag, the Black Thursday, after the Luftwaffe lost 71 confirmed aircraft in a single day. Verify. Luftwaffe loss records cross-referenced in John Foreman, Battle of Britain, The Forgotten Months, Air Research Publications. Unteroffizier Heinz Pohler of 5/ZG-76, flying a Messerschmitt Bf-110C4, was brought down over the Sussex coast at approximately 13:40 and captured that afternoon. His interrogation report, dated 19th August 1940. Verify. Combined Services, Detailed Interrogation Center. Report CSD-IC/WEA 51 TNAWO 208/4148 or ADM 1/12013. Exact citation requires archive confirmation. Was compiled by an intelligence officer at the London Reception Centre. Pohler stated through an interpreter that he had been engaged by 2 Hurricanes of what he believed to be 43 Squadron, the Fighting Cocks, south of Worthing. He described the attack as follows. The Hurricanes had come from below, from his port quarter, at a closing speed he estimated at 80 miles per hour relative. They had fired from what he described as criminal range, his word rendered in the transcript as verbrecherisch, meaning well inside 200 yards. He said he had expected them to break away at 400 yards, as doctrine suggested, as every engagement he had rehearsed in training suggested. They did not break away. He said, and this is preserved in the translated transcript, I kept waiting for them to turn, and they did not turn. They came through the smoke of my engine, and I could see the pilot of the first one looking at me, and I could not understand why he was not afraid. The gun camera footage from Hurricane 57244, confirmed as belonging to Flying Officer Caesar Hull of 43 Squadron, verify 43 Squadron ORB, TNAAIR 27/412, and Hull's combat report AIR 50/17 corroborates the engagement geometry. Hull closed to approximately 75 yards before braking. Caesar Hull had no idea his engagement had been described from the inside. He had landed at RAF Tangmere, climbed out of the cockpit with a light fuel state and an empty starboard gun bay. The belt had fed incorrectly on the last burst, and told his fitter that the aircraft needed a round of ammunition and a new oil cap gasket, and that he would be ready again in an hour. He was. What the Battle of Britain established, and what the Luftwaffe's technical assessments never anticipated, is a principle that does not reduce to a specification sheet. A battlefield is not a proving ground. It does not reward the weapon that performs best under controlled conditions. It rewards the weapon that keeps working when the aerodrome has been hit, when the ground crew has been awake for 31 hours, when the spare parts are in a lorry somewhere on the A24 and the squadron is scrambled at 5:50 before anyone has eaten. The Hurricane was not the finest fighter of 1940. It was the most recoverable. Its wide undercarriage landed safely on cratered grass. Its fabric skin could be repaired by any man with a pot of dope in 20 minutes. Its wide cockpit, 33 inches between the rudder pedals and the instrument panel, compared to the 109's 27, allowed an injured pilot to move his legs. Its forgiving stall gave a pilot 1 more second than he deserved. None of these qualities appeared in any Luftwaffe assessment. All of them appeared in the outcome. The infantry Begleitflugzeug, the infantry escort aircraft, the aircraft the Luftwaffe had dismissed as too slow, too simple, too old, shot down more aircraft in the Battle of Britain than any other weapon either side possessed. The Germans had given it the name of the thing they thought it was fit for. By September 1940, the name had become a description of what it had done to them.